This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. A Montana federal judge has loosened restrictions on pre-construction activities for the Keystone XL pipeline. The federal court halted the pipeline in November until the U.S. State Department completes an accurate and updated environmental impact study. TransCanada appealed the injunction to the Ninth Circuit and asked the Montana court to lift restrictions pending appeal. An environmental lawyer says once construction starts, opponents lose. Victoria Wicks has more.
At a hearing on January 14th, TransCanada asked federal judge Brian Morris to reconsider his injunction on all prep work that moves dirt. TransCanada says if the Ninth Circuit allows the company to go ahead with spring construction, some first steps need to happen now. In response, Morris has agreed to lift part of the injunction. When he first denied pre-construction, Morris cited bureaucratic momentum as one reason to halt work on a project that might ultimately be denied. Natalie Landreth is an attorney with the Native American Rights Fund. She says bureaucratic momentum was a factor in the building of the Dakota Access Pipeline in North Dakota.
Every time the tribal plaintiffs in that case would have a victory on some issue, immediately the pipeline company comes in and says, well, you can't stop construction because we've relied and we've invested this amount of money and therefore we have to keep going. That's what it creates when you allow the pipeline, the project to begin. You are allowing for them to build momentum, which they then use against you, even if you win on the ultimate issues.
In his most recent ruling, Judge Morris addresses momentum by allowing transportation of pipe and construction of pipe yards, but not worker camps. Morris says construction of camps that house, feed, and entertain 1,000 workers would disrupt a large area of land, resulting in, quote, a bureaucratic steamroller. Morris says TransCanada proceeds with the allowed activities at its own peril while the Ninth Circuit appeal progresses. For National Native News, I'm Victoria Wicks in Rapid City, South Dakota.
Leaders from Minnesota's 11 tribes gathered at the state capitol in St. Paul Monday for Sovereignty Day. Tribal issues and history were discussed with state lawmakers. Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan from the White Earth Nation was among speakers. Flanagan says Native communities are too often invisible to policymakers, adding the day was an important step in government-to-government relations. She affirmed the commitment from the governor's office to prioritize and consult with tribes, including in areas of education and missing and murdered Indigenous women. This was the first Sovereignty Day event at the Capitol. Native women recently rallied in Reno, Nevada to draw attention to missing and murdered Indigenous women. Autumn Harry, a member of the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe, took part in the event. She's asking law enforcement at all levels to do a better job gathering and disseminating data in order to get a clearer picture of the problem.
There's not a national database to say how many missing and murdered Indigenous women there are, so there's not even an accurate count. In a lot of cases, they go unsolved.
Harry says she'd like to see more funding for tribal police forces and increased public awareness of the issue across the board.
I think a lot of it has to do with educating men as well, because this is a systemic issue of violence.
U.S. lawmakers recently reintroduced legislation to improve coordination between tribes and national law enforcement databases and break down jurisdictional barriers that have stymied investigations in the past. I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced by Kawanak Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Support by the law offices of Sonosky, Chambers, Saxe, Miller, and Monkman, a national tribal rights law firm with offices in Washington, D.C., New Mexico, California, and Alaska, and online at www.sonosky.com.
My day one.
My day one. My day one.
My day one.
My day one.
My day one.
My day one.
Day one. Telling inspiring stories of alcohol recovery. Recovery works. Hope starts here. Go to recoveralaska.org to learn more.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.